Hey, what is up, Moneysocket Militia? So this is the Telegram group. This is the background discussion, the context. So t.me/moneysocket, links in the description. So if anything here stirs an opinion or criticism or something like that, please join the discussion and tell us your thoughts. We'll incorporate it. Listen to you. This is not a settled thing by any means. This is a larger conversation, so the more people participate, the better it gets. Okay, so just one thing. So I've had a lot of discussions in the group, and then some more casual side discussions and all that. And I've caught myself engaging in a fallacy. So I just want to call attention to that because, I think we need to get the discussion past that. Myself and others. So I'm going to call this the app versus wallet fallacy. So there's sort of this notion that, okay, there's a whole bunch of wallets out there, we need to accommodate them, and getting this adopted is going to be a challenge in itself, which it is. So we got to make it easy for the wallets, so therefore the apps need to work in a way to kind of make the integration easy into the wallets. The flip side, the mirror image of that discussion, that notion is there's a shortage of apps that use Lightning Network. So the wallets aren't useful unless if there's apps. So we need to make it easy for the apps to get built. So it's the wallets that have to bend. So I believe that's a false dichotomy. So kind of the zoom out, the synthesis of these two things is we need to talk about sort of the overall system design, services and wallets. Larger systems might be composed of many things. So even an individual person making a product, they could be putting together services and wallets in different ways. So they're both sides of this. So this is kind of the focus of what I want to talk about in the couple pictures I have here to share. Okay, so this is Andre's picture that he shared in the group. I won't be able to get into the nuts and bolts. That's really not the purpose. As I mentioned, I need to work on implementation, to really have better things to say about this. But yeah, this is a good basis. But to point out the overall system design question that I have is there's kind of a couple assumptions here that are perhaps baked in that we need to kind of zoom out and look at. So this is sort of set up where it's like the wallet that's approaching the service to go connect, and the service is the one that has fixed infrastructure, they have DNS names pointing so they can do REST calls and all that. So the notion that this is always reachable, this is fixed infrastructure, and then the wallet is like a mobile wallet that's a little more intermittent, that here is approaching the service. So I think that's only part of the story, which is what I want to start illustrating here in this video. Okay. And yeah, the rest of this stuff we can continue to talk about. Okay, a very practical example. So this is the first picture of three that I just want to set the stage with. So this is an interview I did on BTC Sessions channel. And this is a vending machine I built. It's got a Raspberry Pi in it, and it's displaying a Bolt 11 on the QR code. So it's very straightforward. I'm sure you all can figure that out. You pay the Bolt 11, you buy a drink. So it's got the electronics in there to make that work. And then this is set up in a retail location. So I also want to talk about sort of the firewall issues of getting this to be sitting there and always working. So that's the first picture I have right here. So for the backend, so this doesn't have a full node in it. There's no channels managing. I'm using OpenNode as the backend, even though certainly I know how to run a node and do all that. I'm trying to make this sort of the convenient, more of a product mindset of what a practical deployment of a Lightning Network vending machine might look like, and they'd want something like an OpenNode backend. So very briefly, the way it works with OpenNode API, I do a REST call to get a quote-unquote charge. So that returns me a Bolt 11 on the reply to the REST call. I render that as a QR code. Now, drawing attention to this QR code, so we have this problem of a physical air gap between the vending machine and the customer mobile, typically a mobile wallet here. So there's no existing relationship between the customer wallet and the vending machine. There's no like internet connection. There's no the customer doesn't know the IP address or anything like that. So the technology we have that lots of Lightning Network apps are doing for that is the QR code. So that gets the Bolt 11 across this physical air gap onto the customer wallet. So that deals with the fact that this is probably on a cell network somewhere, and this is on some local building network, and to actually get it across a QR code is the way you do that. So then via whatever means it pays by the Lightning Network. So the OpenNode backend has fixed infrastructure, it has a full node and all that, and it receives a payment. Now the way the OpenNode API works is it wants to send a push webhook. Like it does a call out webhook that you give it, I believe, when you set up the charge. So because this vending machine, like this is sitting in a retail location, I don't know who sets up the network or whatever. I'm just using an Ethernet jack, and luckily I got an internet connection out of that. So that's how this is set up. So I don't have the ability to receive a webhook here. So the way around that is I got to use a relay service that catches the webhook, and then software on the Raspberry Pi is also connected into that service, so I can basically tunnel through the firewall that way. And then it vends the drink when it's detected that it's been paid. So OpenNode could do this differently, of course. So they could do like a long polling REST call, and it would eliminate the need for this, or they could have sort of a WebSocket version of their API that's a little more custom. But by and large, if you're just selling a drink, that's a physical good that's physically delivered. You're not really thinking in this like rapid fire micropayment mindset. So this could be improved a little, and this is a good product, assuming there's customers there ready to buy your beverages with Lightning Network wallets. But they're like that's the basis. So I want to kind of take this scenario and modify it a little bit as the second picture here. So if you replace the vending machine and then you replace that with like a gambling, I don't like gambling, but gambling's an easy example. I guess sort of a modified version of that would be like an arcade game where it's taking like quarters to play a video game or something like that. But in the same way that somebody would want to put like a vending machine in their business, they'd want to put like a VLT, a video lottery terminal, or like a video or a arcade machine or whatever in their pub or their bar or basement or whatever else. So you have this high, this quote unquote high interaction money game where there's lots of little transactions. An example of that is, of course, like Sparkshot. The whole my motivating reason for working on this problem. It's like there's lots of little transactions, and that's the goal, and we want to settle every transaction as soon as possible. So in the same way that this is behind a firewall, vending machine, this guy's going to be behind a firewall, and it has the same problem of a customer wallet, probably on their smartphone, is going to walk up, but they've got this firewall and air gap to get across. So this is kind of the mindset that the picture Andre drew is in. So that's great. I want to talk about some of this too, but it's the same kind of thing, I guess. So the way this is different than the picture is that we're not necessarily assuming that there's a server associated with this. That this is behind a firewall. Ideally, this is just like a low-cost device, kind of like a vending machine. It's made fairly simple, and there's like a admin settings panel or whatever where you can figure it up. But there's no service. We don't want whoever's putting this in their bar. They don't want to be managing cloud infrastructure to keep that running. So that's at least a desire. Of course, you could do that. There could be like a sort of a first party thing where you're paying a support contract or whatever. Yes, of course. But I kind of want to get away from that. And this third example is a better example of getting away from that. So just think about kind of the mildly not particularly high interest bar owner that wants to put like just the terminal in their bar. They're probably going to have a hosted wallet on the back end. So something like OpenNode, Graph, Zebedee, something like that. Something of that category is the wallet here. So then the ease of this being able to set up to pair with the wallet there. This one has the fixed infrastructure, and this guy is the one that's firewalled. So it's really the service trying to talk to the wallet. And then also getting the wallet talking to the game. To kind of consider all this, we're in the mindset of WebSocket, But WebSocket doesn't necessarily work in this unless if you use a proxy. So you employ something like the WebSocket equivalent of this guy, where it's a proxy that the customer is talking to the proxy, and the proxy talks into there. So I'm not sure that's necessarily superior to some of these other options that might exist. So that's why I'm trying to also broaden the discussion into other types of sockets, and is there advantages. And certainly there's like latency advantages with something like WebRTC, assuming that's part of the quality of this game is like low latency. Okay, so let's take that up one more notch yet on this final example. So this is the example of like streaming video, like a video service. So we've talked about this a little bit in the Telegram. But the idea is you have a streaming box connected to your TV that's going to then buy streaming content from a variety of services, an open market of services that have content to stream in. And this would probably be like a Raspberry Pi image or some sort of open source like Kodi or something like that, where it's just software. And this is a case where, there's not going to be like an associated cloud infrastructure with it to then assist with some of the defeat of the firewall with the wallet. So you can imagine what the interface would be to set up your wallet. You go into the panel, set up wallet. You'd want to connect it to either your own self-hosted thing or something like Graph or Zebedee or something like that. So then you have your home firewall that's then connecting out to the wallet. So this is intermittent and this is fixed, and we need to connect that way. On the other end of this, when this streaming box, now that it has access to a wallet to be able to pay, it's then got a whole bunch of different services. So maybe like this is sort of like the Netflix, how you'd imagine Netflix. So they're a streaming service. They're probably going to host their own node. Of course, they have their own routable DNS server or whatever. So that's fairly straightforward. However, if you want to then, be a participant on the selling side of that video marketplace, you just have your home computer with a hard drive, and you're probably behind the firewall too. So you want your customers to connect into here. So then like how do we actually make this link, and and what technology, and this this doesn't necessarily have to be if you want to participate, setting up your own server or whatever is going to help your odds and your quality of service and all that. But I'm just bringing this up as like there's a whole bunch of different ways that you want to set up the streaming services. And then this kind of like more casual participant might want to not even run their own node. They just want to connect to a hosted backend like this. So then through the firewall. And then because this is streaming, there's already this notion of like a low latency, high quality connection. So whatever, I don't know what protocols something, these IPTV streaming services might be using. But it does seem kind of clunky to be using something that's inferior to that to do the money when, already this streaming box can connect to a streaming service with a high quality link, to do something that's at least at parity in terms of in the properties that are happening there. Okay, gone long enough. We're almost at 14 minutes, so that's almost too long. But any comments, feedback, Moneysocket Militia Telegram, and talk to you all later.